19. Behold, famine and plagues such as that African swine fever killing off millions of pigs, which will lead to a food crisis or famine. Tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges, because the majority of you people, especially 2/3 of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, Salakia, aren't going to acknowledge that it's Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai bringing these scourges for amendment. You're just going to think it's some natural occurrence that you might be able to remedy, but that won't be the case. For your ignorance and unwillingness to turn from your wickedness, these scourges are just going to become worse and worse and worse. 21. Behold, victuals or sustenance such as food, like pork, shall be so good cheap upon the earth, because pork is relatively affordable right now. That's why 2/3 of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are constantly buying it, because it's cheap, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. Even then shall evils grow upon the earth, such as pork prices rising from this African swine fever. As it says back in this article, the implications of the outbreak are already being felt beyond Asia. Global pork prices have risen by almost 40%, and long term it is likely to lead to more pork imports from Europe and America, which their supplies will be tainted with this pig Ebola as well to meet demand, which will also push up global meat prices, which will lead to a famine. And not just this, but as I said earlier, expect crop prices to rise as well in the United States, with these floods and storms ruining U.S. farmers' lands and not allowing them to plant a sufficient amount of crops. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Verse 22, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. From this state of martial law which is coming, where these soldiers are going to be running roughshod on you people, from these race wars and civil wars going on all across the planet, as well as World War III. A lot of you people are going to die in massive numbers. Verse 23, and the dead shall be cast out as dung or shit. There's going to be so many dead people that you're going to be counted as shit, as nothing. It's just going to become commonplace. And there shall be no man to comfort them, for the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. And what I found eerily interesting is that movie Contagion, and what caused the virus that killed a lot of people in that movie. And I highly recommend you, Akim out there, check this movie out. Here's a little bit of a spoiler in case you want to wait to see the movie. The source of the virus is revealed to viewers. A bulldozer owned by AIMM Alderson, the same company Beth worked for, clears some jungle and disturbs a bat who takes food from a banana tree. The bat flies over a pig pen, dropping a chunk of banana, which is eaten by a piglet. A chef from Macau Casino buys the piglet. As he handles the carcass in the kitchen, he does not wash his hands when called to meet a customer. Beth Imhoff, the chef, shakes hands with Beth, giving her a mix of bat and pig viruses, making her patient zero, which caused this global pandemic. Just a quick little side note. And now I'm going to go to my next article on libertynation.com to show further instances of these pestilences in diverse places. Los Angeles disease renaissance. Typhoid and typhus make a comeback. Despite hundreds of millions of dollars flowing through Los Angeles to stem the rising tide of homelessness, a resurgence of medieval diseases has the city and neighboring states on edge. Typhoid fever and typhus, borne by fleas, body lice, and feces, are turning the once glitzy and glamorous city into a third world worthy environment. Yes, Typhoid Mary is back in a sense, living on the streets and wreaking havoc on unsuspecting people in the Golden State. These diseases, along with an uptick in tuberculosis, hepatitis A, and staph, more examples of pestilences, are easily and rapidly spread and have wide-reaching consequences. They're highly contagious and can infect anyone through casual contact. Again, back in 2 Esdras 16, behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. An LAPD officer was recently diagnosed with typhoid, and several other city employees are exhibiting the classic symptoms of high fever, muscle pain, and weakness. Left untreated, the disease can be fatal, and let's face it, the malady wiped out entire populations during the Dark Ages, which, as I said at the beginning of the video, the Black Death is making a comeback, and took a heavy toll on American Civil War soldiers and early American settlers. Some historians blame the malaise for obliterating the Jamestown settlement. Where the heck did they come from? Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority recently released a report showing 59,000 people living on the streets in Los Angeles County, a 12% increase since 2018, with 36,300 of them within the city limits of Los Angeles. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development reports that California accounted for 30% of all people experiencing homelessness as individuals throughout the United States. The progress of these once eradicated and near eradicated diseases is so alarming that the politicians who once spent copious amounts of time covering up the warts and putrid pustules in their liberally run cities and states are now showing disbelief and disgust. California Governor Gavin Newsom broke his silence during his State of the Speech in February. Our homeless crisis is increasingly becoming a public health crisis. Typhus, a medieval disease in California in 2019. Los Angeles Mayor Gil Garcetti, who many believe would be a 2020 presidential contender, calls the crisis the biggest heartbreak for me and my city. Garcetti campaigned extensively for the initiative known as Proposition HHH, which designated $1.2 billion over the next 10 years to build homeless housing, but now residents are howling about the pricey plan's abject failure. One local news outlet polled residents and found that 45% said it's failing, with 18% saying it's a complete failure. But what you see is that nobody's acknowledging that it's Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai bringing these scourges for amendment. Back in 2 Esdras 16, but for all these they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. So again, expect these pestilences, among other things, to get worse and worse. And just look at a picture of this typhoid fever. That's definitely something you don't want to get, but you'll be seeing more and more people out here with this. Death will be a peace for you people that are suffering from these pestilences and hunger. And now I'm gonna close it out with this video from a very good YouTube channel titled Florida Maquis, which is he's going to be speaking of this Ebola crisis, which the mainstream media is not really talking about, but it's going to get worse and worse and worse to where they're going to have to talk about it more and more and more.
It's time. I think it's time that everyone take these precautions if you're going to go out into public. The situation with Ebola is being clearly hidden from us by our government. They're just choosing to not cover it. They're choosing to not deal with it, choosing to ignore it. They've got their head in the sand. They think it's just going to go away. The most experienced experts from the United States aren't even allowed to be within 1,000 miles of what's going on, and they're just going to let this fester. And the International Red Cross is begging for help because they have said clearly it is out of control. They've done everything they can, short of setting off a worldwide panic. Now, to put everything in perspective, back in 2014, we deployed the 101st Airborne Division to West Africa to stop that outbreak. And I want to show you the numbers. This this is a 2014 article. 2,000 deaths in Liberia, 600 in Sierra Leone, 739 in Guinea. Now, reportedly, right now, the deaths haven't reached that yet, but they are saying that 1 in 4, 25%, conservatively, might not even be known about. And this time, this particular outbreak is in a war zone. West Africa wasn't at war when we went there. This virus could be all over the globe. This gets to India, and it's over. I think China will be able to stop it, just because they don't have any problem shutting down their borders. But India, that's not far away. And every article you look at, even the most recent ones, International Federation of the Red Cross says Ebola at tipping point in Congo with 2,000 cases that they know of.
Fox News just did a report on how migrants from Congo are in Mexico trying to cross the border to get into the United States.
It killed 11,000 people in 2014. That was something that went on for over a year. This has only been going on for less than a year. And they don't have... This is their Twitter account from today. The only way we will see an end is if we reset the response and place communities at the center of all of our efforts. And this is from their Twitter. That's their pinned tweet. And this is from 5 June. So this is why I'm saying at this point, going out, have these. If you have to deal with people, keep these. If you have to touch anything, and I mean anything at all, under no circumstances, enter any establishment that is a 24-hour establishment. Why? Because that's where the homeless go, and they are the most at risk with the way that our society is structured, that we can travel literally across the country in a day. Actually a matter of hours. It's not just going to be Dallas. It's not just going to be LA. It's going to be New York. It's going to be Chicago. I live here in Florida, and this is a huge tourist destination. Orlando, Tampa, Miami, all of those places. Honestly, I wouldn't use a public restroom now for any reason. I mean, plan appropriately, I guess. And this is something that a lot of people think about. Envelopes and letters and paper, they are just carriers. And every letter, everything that you touch regarding that's been through the mail system has been in direct biological contact with everything else in the mail system. Just even if it's in passing, that your letter touches another letter that touched another letter. I mean, back in 2014, we had to deploy the military to stop this. And even then, it was touch and go for a long time. And if we don't do something soon, it's going to be a worldwide disaster. And I mean very soon. Like,
buckle up, Akim. We're in for a wild ride. These scourges of amendment are going to be no joke. So with this video, I hope you sincere Akim out there were edified. And as always, I'm going to say Ababa Ball, Kwam Yasharala. Till next time, Shalom.